Where'd I go?
Let's
Can you hear
see.
me?
I can hear you. Now I can see you.
What is happening? Ryan, what is happening here?
Ghosts in the machine.
Well, and we are live. Wait, let me see if I can pick myself up here. Can I go back?
Oh, we're actually live. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
Wow. The
Man, what a
magic of
day for
technology.
technology.
Yeah, you made yourself disappear. That's magic, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's happening, my
All
friend?
right, so we're live. Good morning. Yeah. So here we are. Yeah, you're back from Mexico. And it's our 52nd episode. I I don't know. For me, that's a big milestone. I didn't know if we would keep doing it. I didn't know if I would want to keep doing it, but here we are, 52 weeks later.
Well, congratulations, my friend. I mean, that is some consistency. And one of the things I have learned from many people in the that a lot of people would recognize people like Gary Vaynerchuk and Alex Ramosi, like in the business world or in the kind of marketing world. The I remember watching Gary Vaynerchuk speak, and they were saying like, what's like the one thing, like if you were to kind of break it down to like one thing, what's the most important thing when it comes to your like videos and your content? Like, is it your hook? Is it your story? Is it being authentic? Is it being vulnerable? What is it? What is it? And he says, I'll tell you, there's just one thing. Oh no, someone asked him like, what are like the top three or top five things? He's like, I'll
Hmm.
I'll
Hmm.
give you one thing.
Hmm.
Consistency. Consistency trumps everything.
Hmm.
Everything. And I think for so many of us, when it comes to anything, when it comes to our parenting, when it comes to our health, when it comes to every any domain in life, we think that we have to just like knock it out of the park all the time, and we have to get things perfect. And I got to say the perfect thing to my kid, and I've got to say the perfect thing to my wife, and I've got to eat the perfect thing. And but it's not about perfection. It's not about anything other than if you just show up day after day, just have the willingness to show up. So that consistency. So I applaud you for your consistency. I only joined I only joined the bandwagon here. I don't even know what it was, but whatever it is.
A little ways in.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, consistency. Yeah, well, big shout out to Thomas. Him and I got it started, and he's definitely a model of consistency. I think he's done, I don't know, over 3,000 days of, or maybe it's not quite 10 years. Anyways, he's done thousands of days straight of push-ups, meditation. He used to show us this, the app he used to track that. Anyway, so with regard to consistency, there's someone who's a great role model, and really appreciate him and I getting this started. And I wanted to just reflect a little bit here. 52 days. Any highlights for you that stick out?
I think just being asked to come on with you was just a really big honor. I think one of the things that we hear so much around about creating great things in our life is that we are the sum total of the five closest people that we spend time with. And when I look at the people that I spend time with, I'm like, oh my gosh, like how did? Sometimes I feel like a little bit of a fraud or some. I feel like an imposter. Like, what? How are these people letting me into these circles here? I don't get it. Just it's me, and yet the people I surround myself with are not dumb people. So there must be something that is seen in me that allows for that to happen. So I just feel really honored to be here, to be able to show up. And I find it really fascinating that some weeks we'll have zero ideas. Well, not necessarily zero ideas, but it'll be like, oh, I've got this idea. Okay. And we'll just hit record. And then all of a sudden I'm thinking like, oh man, like we're going to spend 10 minutes talking about this. And then we're just going to twiddle our thumbs for the next hour. But somehow it's like all of a sudden like, oh my God, we got to cut it off because it's our time's up. And I think that's really great.
Well, I appreciate you and yeah, being a yes too. When we first asked, hey, we could someone help us technically because it was overwhelming. I think at the beginning we were trying to stream to multiple channels at once. Yeah, and so I did really appreciate you just being a yes to support us. Just in the background making all this happen, and then really appreciate you being a yes to step into the light here and our great conversations and friendship that's grown stronger over this time here. And tied to consistency is commitment, and I feel like those two things are intertwined. And you've been very committed and supporting our show here and showing up when I'm not here and doing several solo sods, which I don't I don't find easy. So I appreciate that how many of those you've done as well to keep the thing going here. So yeah, appreciate it.
No problem, man. Are you familiar with Bill Burr, the comedian?
No, no.
He's a
Maybe I've seen him, but I don't know
ginger-haired
the name.
guy from the East Coast and of the U.S. And he's great. He's known for like his hot takes and his rants. He's like angry northeastern rants, and he's hilarious. But one of the things that he credits to developing a lot of his material is that he has a podcast. I think it's called the Monday Morning Podcast, or something like that. But he does it on a Thursday, something like that.
Oh,
But it's just him just going on rants. He just talks about stuff, and that's how he works out a lot of his material. Like he comes up with a lot of material just because of the fact that he does these little rants, and he just goes on by himself and just talks, and it's hilarious. And you can see, like, I've listened to enough of him. I don't listen to him a lot, but I've listened to enough to see, like, oh, I can see the start of that little bit that he does now that's in his new special. Like, oh, that's probably started during one of these things. And yeah, it's just like having the commitment to just show up and like, okay, I'm gonna just, I don't know what's gonna come out of my mouth, but something's gonna come from this, and it does. And yeah, those are definitely a lot harder when there's not someone else to riff off
fill
of
in some
or
space
take
when
some
you
of
run
take
out
some
of
of the
thoughts.
space.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's such a, I find them such a big learning experience. Like I learned so much when that happens.
Right. Right. Well, it's cool. Yeah, I guess I'm proud of us for sticking to it, and 52 doing it every week. 6 a.m. juggling, life and other commitments and kids, and so yeah, I just probably give ourselves a pat on the back. I don't do that all that often, so that's a milestone for us. And yeah, I had a few highlights. Just looking back over the episodes that we had. I mean, I really appreciate our conversations, and that's been the majority of our shows. So some of the highlights that stick out for me are the conversations that we've had also with other people,
Mm-hmm.
and I really, really have enjoyed every conversation when we brought someone else on as well. Our most watched show, and one of the highlights for sure, the conversations I enjoyed with Chad, Chief Chad, and his dad.
Sorry, what was
Again,
his name?
Chief Chad.
Sorry, what was his name?
I'm not. You'll see in that episode that I did not do a very good job of his real name.
No, you did a good job.
But,
We just had fun with it. So, and it's such a hard name to pronounce.
well,
But
for us who
I'm
don't
just picking at
normally
you.
speak, yeah, we don't. I don't speak. I'm not used to speaking their language, and but he doesn't mind if I call him Chief Chad and his dad Wastikin. So that's our most watched episode or listened to episode of them all, and also just a conversation I really appreciated to have a great grandfather on the show, and a grandfather,
Mhm.
and two men from yeah, different culture, different world, but a lot of the same things when we talk about being a dad. And yeah, Cavi, that was a really great interview and conversation I enjoyed. Going back to, I had my sister-in-law Jenna on, who's a child development expert just in terms of the world she lives in. So I would really, really recommend listening to that show. Sean, we had on there too. That was, I guess, early on, and just talking about how to support kids in when they're into their high performance pursuits. Um, Not sure if I missed any other interviews that you remember of other people we brought on.
Um, no, nothing comes to mind.
So any one of those, I highly recommend. Really do appreciate that, and it's hard to schedule because sometimes we're not thinking about it until the morning of, but it's also hard to get people to sometimes to come on at 6 a.m. live. Um, but yeah, other than that, I do how many spontaneous conversations we've had to jump on here and just be all right, let's talk about this week or something that sticks out as one of the most important things we can offer being a dad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how do you feel it's shifted how you parent or how you view your role as a dad, just going through this process,
Mm,
or has it?
it's a good reflection. Um, I don't know. Two things come to mind, I guess. One is, um, for some of it, it's at least helpful to go through, some of my own thoughts and share some perspective and, maybe reinforce that the good things. And I know even just live here, you and I've been able to process stuff and get clarity on some things just talking it out with you and being
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, I didn't realize that's how I thought about that, and sort of confirmation of why I do things the way I do, or but yeah, I think it's helpful. Sometimes when they ask like an athlete, like, oh, how do you do what you do? They don't usually think about it, but I think it's been helpful to think about it and be like, oh, well, this is why I do it this way. And this is my thoughts on this. And so for me personally, yeah, it's been helpful to, I guess, get clarity on why, in particular, I parent the way I do. And, the other part that I feel like's been helpful is I haven't put all of our episodes in it, but I did create that custom GPT probably after episode 30. There's our first
Right.
30 shows in there. I took all the transcripts and I fed it into a custom GPT. So anyone now can go on the GPT marketplace and search for Being Dads and find us and ask us questions. And in theory, that GPT is using our show notes, and I think I gave it a couple instructions in terms of how to behave. And so it's in theory asking questions along the lines of how we would based on our values and our conversations. So I've actually used that a few times just to ask ourselves, like, in some stickier situations with my kids, is like, just give me some extra perspectives on this one. If I feel like I'm not sure, I don't ask it what should I do, but I just ask it for some extra perspectives, like, what do you think about this? And I was thinking about approaching it this way. Can you help refine it? But yeah, that's also been something to reflect back on. That's been helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Big time. I find it so fascinating. Like we are not that I or you are claiming to be an expert in any of this stuff, by any stretch, and yet, we talk about our experience and how we've done this and how we, like, we're proud of what our kids are and who they are and who they're becoming, and all of those things. And I like that we have just brought things together from the standpoint of, like, us as the dad and us as the person, like us as the man, us as the sons, and how all of those interplay. And it's, I remember thinking as a kid, like I was talking about with a client of mine with this yesterday, and like we're talking about, my mom was 20 when she had me, and my dad would have been 22 or 21, almost turning 20. Oh no, he had just turned 22. And thinking, when I was 20, looking at my mom when she was 40, I remember like my mom's 40th birthday. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, my mom is ancient. She is so old. And I was 20. And now I'm 47. And I think, man, like I am nowhere, you know, I think so differently about myself at 47 than I did of my mom when she was 40. And I was 20 at the time. I can't imagine. I mean, I'm 47.
Right.
I've got an 8-year old and a
Yeah.
5-year old. And just the perspective shift that we go through as we age or as we mature and as we develop and evolve as people, like my view of what being a dad is, I mean, is even different from what it was a year ago. This, a son has changed. Like it changes so much, and it just evolves through all the different understandings and all the different lessons that we've had, and you know, a lot of what I take into that I've processed and learned and talked about here, and you know, it allows me to have so much more compassion and empathy for everybody because like we're all going through stuff, we're all learning stuff. None of us has any of this figured out. And the moment that any of us does feel like we've figured it out, oh, there's another lesson, there's another challenge. So let's scratch on the
Yeah.
record.
Yeah. Well, what I hear in that is just, you know, how important it is to stay humble. Maybe like you're right. Like just because we're on here and, you know, we're proud of our kids. There's by no means do we have it all figured out, and by no means do I don't know, speak for myself, and I think I heard you say it. No way do we think we're experts on this topic, but I do think we've done a lot of things right and learned some things that we would do differently along the way, and hopefully we've been able to share some of that. And yeah, it's a good, you know, it's just a simple example, but how important it is to stay humble. Like, you know, my eldest is 16 and starting to drive now as a learner. So, you know, an adult still needs to be in the car. But she was just sharing last night. I'm like, yeah, I got this figured, like something along the vibe of, I got this figured out. You know, I'm a good driver. I'm a really good driver. You know, I don't remember exactly. It just felt like there wasn't a lot of humbleness in it. And then at like that very moment, she did something. I'm like, okay, no, hold on. This is why we got you got to stay humble because there's so much still you haven't encountered. There's so much here that you still don't know. But it's hard to know that you know. It's hard to know what you don't know, and that's why I feel like it's important to be humble because there's just so much still to learn. And I feel like if you're not humble and you think you got it figured out, that's when life, as I heard you say as well, that's when life will potentially humble you for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and another thing on that, I've been having a lot of conversations with people that I'm close to recently about just transitions in life, and well, and I guess put it bluntly, like the idea of death and dying. My mom is still in the hospital. She has been for a couple weeks now, or yeah, almost going to 3 weeks, and she's in like a coma state right now. And so just looking at like caring for my mom and caring for my own kids, caring for myself. We've had a lot of conversations, and you know, I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday about they were talking about how when their I guess their grandparent had passed or was about to pass, and they were with their mom and their mom with their mom, you know, who was passing, and they were asking them about like you know how they're feeling and stuff like that, and this woman was saying like who's in her you know late 60s early 70s talking about her mom who's about to pass, like she was saying like how sad she felt that her mom was passing. She's like I feel like I you know she said something to the effect of I just don't want her to go because I don't want to have to face this life alone. And the perspective it was like oh my gosh, like you're in your 70s, like you are more than a grown ass adult. And yet, in that moment, with the idea of, or the thought of you losing your own parent who's in their 90s at this point, like you've reverted back to just being a little kid. Like the feelings you have is like, oh, like I'm being abandoned or something is being taken away from me in this life as if you were just a kid. And yet, this woman was in her 70s. And it was like a big point of reflection. Like, oh wow, we're all the same. Like we think that we evolve out of this thing where we need our parents or the relationship we have, but when it comes down to it, fundamentally, like we all have this yearning and this need to be accepted and validated and loved by our parents. And like we're still like we're I'm still my mother's son. I'm still my father's son. And even though I have got my own kids, I'm that to them too. And it's like I feel like we don't. It's like we don't step out of one and then into another. It's like we just take on another piece. There's just like another piece of it. And when we think that like oh like it's so different now, it's like well not really. And we still have those same feelings. We still have those same needs. We still have those same kind of inklings to just in a tough time, like in our 30s and 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, like we just want to be held by our parents. I found that so beautiful.
Yeah. I hear you. I've had similar thoughts recently, just around like, yeah, they're still my parents, even though, yes, I'm 46 years old and feel like I've got lots figured out. There's still lots I don't have figured out, and it's great that I can still go to them for advice and it still be helpful. Like they're still my parents. Like you're right, you don't grow out of that. They don't all you don't just because you're an adult doesn't mean you don't need your parents anymore, or you can't still ask them for advice. And it's amazing. Like they know me better than practically anybody, and they do give really good advice, and I do really appreciate them and the fact that they're still there for me. And yeah, they're still my parents, and they still have combined more years on this planet than I do. And yeah, it's I don't know. They've been really supportive, uh, all all throughout my life, and yeah, they're getting on as well. But yeah, they're still, there's, my dad's still my dad, so it's my mom's still my mom, but I know we're talking about dads here. Anyways, but yes, but you're right. It just it evolves. So they're still my parents. Now we got kids, maybe one day grandkids, but I don't know. Now I'm just blabbing on.
No, I get it. No, it's such a and I think even people without say the connection that we have to our parents, because there's a lot of people I know don't have great relationships with their parents, but that doesn't change the fact that we still have a yearning for that. Like we still have a yearning for to be parented, and sometimes we have to do that for ourselves. Sometimes we have our communities that help us do that. Um, but I think just acknowledging that we're still people that have those needs is okay. Like we seem to think that as we grow and maybe our parents have passed or maybe we don't have a good relationship with our parents, like that's something that like we've either grown out of or something that we've kind of evolved from. But there's nothing that yeah, like we still need that. And whether that's from our own parents, whether that's from the community we have, but in some whether that's also something that we learn to do for ourselves. Like I know there's a big movement in the mental health space and kind of personal development world that talks about reparenting ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it's just so key to just understand that and we talk about this so much that it all comes back to like how I communicate and how I influence myself. Before I can be a great dad, I've got to be a great person to me. And if I'm not that for me, then that gets the energy of that, the essence of that gets passed to my children. So that's yeah. So it just starts there. So how I perceive myself, how I perceive myself in the world, how I act in the world, how I take in love and encouragement and lessons and all that. Like it matters so much.
Yeah. So on this topic, another thought that came to mind here is, do you know the things that, I mean, this has been a game changer for me through my journey with, if we're talking about our parents for a second here. Um, I struggled earlier on in my life when I thought that, I should be able to get advice from them on all topics. And there were certain topics that would cause some frustration for them because we weren't aligned perhaps on them. And I know I can remember some of the things, some of the conversations, and some of the work that I did that was total game changer when I realized that, like, oh yeah, I'm not going to be able to get advice from them on everything because we aren't going to share the same values. And I don't know if that's the same realization everybody has, where they think that, oh, because they're my parents and they raised me, I should be able to talk to them about everything and have an agreement on everything, and we should share the same values. But I realize there are some big topics that we don't have the same values on, and we've also been able to, I think be able to get to a place where that's okay. We don't always talk about those things, but even if we do, I feel like we've gotten to a place where it's okay to disagree,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't struggle with that, where it's like, oh, why am I getting so frustrated about this? Why don't they see it my way? But it's given me a lot of peace, and it took a while though with some of those things to be okay to have a different set of values than them on certain things.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, do you have the same realization? Is there some topics that just aren't you guys aren't going to get alignment on?
Uh, yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I don't. Is I have a relationship with my parents that even if we don't agree on stuff, like we're happy to talk about things. And I guess I'm also in a place now in my life that I don't feel the need to convince someone to always see things my way. And so we can have conversations that just create more curiosity and openness than like, I'm trying to convince you of something. But but yeah, like, well, I guess I have definitely seen a shift, and this probably happened for me in my mid 20s, I guess, where not necessarily stopped. This is not necessarily the right verbiage, but I felt like before, like I put my parents on a pedestal, like you said, like they should know everything, and all of a sudden, like I realized, like, oh, like my parents are just like me. Like I witnessed my parents go through a pretty challenging time together, and I remember seeing like, oh, like yeah, they don't have it all figured out. Like they've made mistakes just like me. And what that did for me though, it wasn't like it like broke this illusion that I had of my parents, but in maybe it was just because the place I was within myself at the time, but I actually held them in higher regard at that point because I was like, oh, like they're just like me, like, but they're still figuring this out, and they're willing to just do the work and go through this. Like it's okay. Like it was comforting almost in that moment, knowing that they're not perfect. That
Mm-hmm.
it gave some grace potentially to me. Like, oh, okay. Like I was, I was always trying to live up to the the made up expectation that I had of what they thought of me. And in that moment, I was like, oh, okay, no, I don't have to do that. And they're just people too. And I think I became closer to my parents in that regard, in that moment, because I could see like, oh, like you guys are just going through stuff. I'm going through stuff. And now I'm at a point where I don't necessarily need you for all of these things. And
Mm-hmm.
so I can be there with you, and I can actually be a resource because I have a different perspective that can potentially help you. And
For
so it
sure.
helped to fill, excuse me, help fill my cup too. That makes sense.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, well, are you good if I shift the gear here, change things up a tiny bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
The halfway mark roughly here. But I thought also with it being, or I guess not technically our first birthday as a podcast, as a show. But 52 feels like it is. So what
I
came to
love
mind
how
was just
you are so literal about things.
uh,
Well, so technically we're not. That's not the one. So, I love the
yeah,
data driven thing in you that does this.
it's
I love this.
I think it's been a combination of things. Like I took engineering in university, which requires a lot of detail, right? A lot of precision. Like things just don't work if you don't make it, super precise. And then a lot of my professional life was, you know, being in construction or in engineering or well, anything sales. There was a lot of agreements, a lot of, contracts, and like,
Mhm.
one punctuation can make a difference if you don't put the comma, or one word changes the whole sentence. So I don't know. There's been a lot of my life that's, I don't know, required a certain level of precision, and then you stack on top personal growth stuff and like the four agreements. I
Yeah,
feel like I spend a lot of time like coding that into my system and being impeccable with
being
your word.
impeccable. Yeah,
Yeah. So I just, yes, I know it's a thing, and I have to watch. Sometimes, is it necessary to point it out? If someone else gets something wrong, or I disagree with something because it doesn't seem, factual or whatever. I do have to check myself sometimes on that.
it's all good. No, I like it. I think it's great. But anyways, that's missing the point. The point was technically not our first
But
birthday, but yeah, I gotcha.
a bit of lag. Hopefully, this is still working. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah,
Um, so yes, what came up for me was birthdays. As dads, as parents. Yeah, just thoughts, memories, ways. If there's interesting ways that perhaps you guys have celebrated your kids and their, anniversaries, their birthdays. That was the topic I thought of, was birthdays.
oh, it's cool. So I've got my oldest is her birthday. She's turning 9 next month, in just over a month from now. And one tradition that we've had in our house ever since they were little is that I make them breakfast in bed for their birthday. And so they get to choose anything that they want for breakfast. And so far, they've always chosen decent things. It's not like I want a bowl of chocolate or anything like that.
Hmm.
But I'll make them breakfast in bed, and yeah, I mean, we always make a big deal out of celebrating them, and it's funny now having, and I'm interested to hear your take on this, having three, but because we only have two, but now like the youngest one and the older one, right, they're in the stage where they feel like everything needs to be equal. Like if I have two chocolate chips, then you have to have two chocolate chips, and if you have three, well, then I get to have another one. And so if you got this on your birthday, then I should have this on my birthday, and there's all this little like back and forth. Um, and yeah, like, oh, you had seven people at your birthday party, so I get to have seven this year. And it's
Okay.
very odd
Right.
where they're
Right.
going with it. But yeah, but we always do the breakfast in bed with the kids, and I mean, I think we're pretty good at just celebrating them all the time. But I love like the little rituals, and I can see like so coming up on her ninth birthday now. Like we have the little ritual, and already she's asking for like what she wants to have for her breakfast in bed, and so it's fun. That's like that's an ingrained routine or ingrained ritual into our lives. Like it's a month and a half before, and she's already scheming what she wants, what kind of
That's
juice
cool.
she wants for her breakfast, and things like that.
That's cool. Well, that's great. Yeah, that's great. That traditions are amazing. That's awesome that you have one that the kids look forward to, and it feels like one of those things where it's a great thing for kids to be able to, learn that, oh, if there's something I really want and I ask for that, then I can get that. Like I think that that's a great thing, and ask and you shall receive. Like it's, I think that's a really great lesson for them, because I know, you know, there'll be times where I won't ask for what I want in for my own life or in the world, and I'll hold it back. And I don't think that's, healthy, even if it might seem outlandish or don't know how it's going to show up in this world. But I just think
Hmm.
even that one thing about teaching a kid that they can get what they want. And sometimes it might take work, but in this case, it won't. But anyways, that's been something I can say that I feel like I've done a pretty good job with, is supporting my kids to speak up about what they want, and then supporting them for how to get it. And yeah, even in that little example of breakfast in bed, I think that's great.
Hmm. How about in your household? Is there anything when it comes to birthdays and stuff like that that you guys have ritual around, or things that you guys are, are conscious of creating or doing?
Well, I do think, yes, it's important to celebrate them. I feel like it's, I don't know, I think it's important that they know that they're important, and that the fact that they are just here on this planet is more than enough, and that gets celebrated. I would hope to think that we've done a good job of that with them, without making it ridiculous, right? And but I think just that piece around, you're worthy of us being celebrated, just because you're alive. I think that's been something that we've done. The other thing, my wife's has had a really great tradition that she's done for them, and created a scavenger hunt, usually for their birthday.
Oh, cool.
And maybe there's an age where that stopped, but I know that's something that they've looked forward to. And I always thought she should have bottled that up into some sort of game or package for their parents. But just, when they wake up, that there's these clues, and they get some of their presents along the scavenger hunt, has been a great tradition, especially when they were younger.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. And then I just think of some of the, three of them, they do want to celebrate their birthdays quite different. My eldest has wanted to celebrate with, I don't know, how 20, 25 people she had over here at her house to celebrate one of her birthdays recently, versus our son, who's, you know, definitely doesn't want something as big and wants it a lot smaller, with a smaller group of friends and going skiing, or something like that. And then, well, I guess our youngest, there was quite a few she wanted last year over here, but this year it's a lot smaller. But she wants it to be puppy themed, dog themed. So yeah, I guess out of all of it, it's just, I think it's important that they feel celebrated. I guess, however that turns out, and we usually start with something just small. With the, they get it, they get to have a nice extended birthday. It's not just sort of a one and done thing. There's a small thing, just as us as an immediate family.
Hmm.
We'll widen that circle with my parents, my brother, and his family that live in town here, and then their own friend group and what they want to do there.
Yeah, yeah, we have something very similar.
So they get to get celebrated multiple times.
Yeah, that's really cool. We recently watched a movie as a family when we were on vacation, called Yes Day. Have you ever seen that movie?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's become very quickly. It's become both my daughters' favorite movie. Granted, they haven't watched a ton of movies in their life, so slim pickings. But yeah, but it was just a fun idea of, so on this, we have so many constraints so many times that when they're just allowed to just kind of run wild, like how much or how freeing that is. When they can just like, hey, this is what I want to do. Okay, we're gonna do it. And what I found really interesting about in that movie was, so the premise of the movie is that the kids get one day where they get to decide like anything that they want to do. Their parents have to say yes to it. And what I found really interesting about that was that even before it began, there was parameters on it. Like
Mm.
there's still rules. Like, yes, it's a yes day, but there's still rules around it. It's not yes to just anything. Like it has to
Sure.
be like they said. Like it was things like it has to be within a 20-mile radius of our house. It has to be you know I can't remember all the other rules that they had, but I find like, oh, it's so true for just life in general. Like we think like, oh, we're an adult, we can just do anything and everything. Well, yeah, but there still are rules that govern this whole thing. And it reminded me of this thing one of my mentors said recently, or not too long ago. He said like, you can have it all, you just can't have it all now. You can't have it all at
Sure.
once. And it was a good life lesson. And but it's fun that like on their birthdays, like there's these things that are a little bit out of the ordinary that we don't necessarily always do, but also the confines of that makes it way more special. Like if they could just have breakfast in bed every day, breakfast in bed very
Yeah.
shortly would be it would lose any of its allure. Like it would just become like whatever. Like I think
Sure.
about somebody that used to be on the internet a lot, and people like he had millions and millions of followers. This guy Dan Bilzerian, he was like, Dan Bilzerian.
Oh,
Do you know
yeah.
who he is? Yeah, like we haven't seen him in a while. Like he was this like multi-millionaire playboy guy who was he made a bunch of money gambling, and he flaunted his lifestyle of just being able to do anything and everything that he wanted anytime. He had a jet and he had all the women and everything. And when he was interviewed about it, he's kind of like, like all of a sudden it just like everything just kind of became baseline. Like it didn't
Hmm.
give the amount of joy that did. Like if you were to go from going to from a a 3-star hotel to a 5-star hotel, like all of a sudden you get to stay in the Four Seasons. Like, oh my god, like this is amazing. But after a while, it just becomes the hotel you stay in. It doesn't. It's like it's not special anymore. And what's special, oftentimes, is the novelty, the fact that it doesn't happen every day. And so for kids, very very similar. Like there's parameters and routines and rituals that we have every day that are still amazing. But these things that we do that are a little bit more extravagant, these things that we do that are a little bit more, um, yeah, like they're special. They're special for a reason because we don't do them all the time, and that part of what makes it special. Like, yeah, like we celebrate our kids every day, but not in the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I don't know what I know exactly what you're saying. I don't honor balance, but it's not. Yeah, it's not all of one thing and none of the other. It's being able to find that balance there where it does still feel special and but yeah, it's not denying it completely, but it's not indulging in it all the time.
Yeah.
uh, well, anything else on the birthday topic here?
No, I guess one of the things that we have delved into over the last little bit, just in terms of birthdays, one of the things that's very is well, I guess that is seen to be kind of come with birthdays is the idea of gifts and presents. And one of the things that we've shifted over, over I guess the lifespan of our kids, and also we've kind of seen a shift with them too, is that when it comes to like Christmas or birthdays, like the gifts that we give them, oftentimes like they're just these little things. Like it's just they want toys or things like that. But as the kids have gotten a little bit older, what we've tried to shift, and also when we've talked to them about this, is having what one of I guess our mutual friends had called an experience gifts. So rather than like for our kids for Christmas, we had said like, hey, like so would you guys rather just a bunch of presents, toys and stuff like that, or like a few toys and we go on a trip? And because we want to go on a trip, so like giving them experiences rather than things. And a lot of the stuff that we do, like we'll pour way more time and energy and resources like money into providing experiences that they'll remember as opposed to like baubles and toys and things like that that they won't. Like we have
Sure.
I can't tell you how many things we just give away or sell on marketplace every month because the kids are just like, meh. They played with
Yeah.
it 3 times. It was the best toy in the world for 4 days, and all of a sudden it was like, eh. But still, like my daughters don't talk ever about the toy that they played with 3 years ago, but they still talk about the trip that we took 3 years ago.
Yeah.
They still talk about the things we did together. Like there's those experiences that we have that are memorable, not the things.
Yeah.
And so I'm much more of a fan of, yeah, when it comes to their birthdays, is provide experiences that they'll remember as opposed to, so I'll put a lot of time into the experience, even just the breakfast in bed, like the experience of breakfast in bed, like setting the mood, like putting on music, put the lighting, all of that. It plays into, it's not just the food that they eat. It's not just like, oh, I get to have blueberry juice. It's the whole package of the experience as opposed to just the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. Well, yeah, because you're also giving perhaps the gift of some thought there. There's a lot of thought that goes into those experiences. You're giving the gift of time. You're giving them this memory that they'll have for perhaps a lot longer than just the thing. And I know for me personally, I guess it's not quite the same. I don't make my kids. Maybe that's something I could consider. The most precious gifts I've had is the stuff that they've made. Just a lot
Mm.
of it's on my wall, and I had one big list my daughter wrote out of 96 things she loves about me. Oh no, 46 things that she loves about me. It's this big long piece of paper that she glued a bunch of things to.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
yeah, for me, that's, I guess for birthdays, I guess for Father's Day is when we will do an experience. I like to go and do something with them as a novelty and an experience. But yeah, for them, yeah, it's a good question to ask them. That what are the birthdays and things about their birthday experiences, gifts, that they do remember the most and have appreciated most. I will, because our youngest's birthday is coming up here too. I think that would be a really important thing to ask them, because then, we all have our different love languages as well. Like we all have different ways that we like to receive attention, love, and gifts, and all that kind of thing. So I
Yeah.
think that'll be a good.
Yeah. Very cool. All right.
Well, are we near the end here?
Yeah.
I don't. I'm running on this topic. I'm running out of words in my mouth. So
Well, I'll finish with this then, that on the eve or the day of or your, I guess, your 1 year anniversary of starting this, I see this less as a podcast or a conversation. But one of the things that really attracted me to this thing was that we were starting a little bit of a movement. Like it was a thing. Like it was the why behind it was just like not so that we can talk about our dad stuff and go on little rants and like that, but we see something sacred in the stuff that we do as dads, and there's so often an overlooking of the role that we have as men, as fathers, and bringing back some sacred energy to that, and some yeah, just some direction and some guidance for others, and as well as for ourselves. I think that is just so needed in this world, and it's one of the reasons I was so honored to be asked to come on with you. So it's like, yeah, like this feels important, and we don't have all this whole thing figured out, and we haven't about whatever it is about growing it or monetizing it or all whatever it is. But like there's something that's just so inherently sacred about what you started and what we're continuing to do, that I think it's like, yeah, I think it's great to acknowledge that, like, hey, we've come a long ways, and you've come a long way with this, and it's like it's only the beginning.
You're right, man. I appreciate all that. I appreciate you sharing, your perspective of it. And, that was the original sort of intention and vision for it, was that there would be, multiple parts of being able to build a community up and be able to support more dads, and, have in-person dad talks, online community people could join, and just more resources for because being a parent's tough, and we have such a small sample size growing up of what it's like, and not
Mm-hmm.
always do we have not everyone has great parents, and even if you did have great parents, they still don't know it all. Like, things change, and kids are different, and there's just so many variables that I knew for myself, there was just not that much available, especially for dads. There was very few dad books, when our first was born, and so yeah, maybe we will get an opportunity to mushroom this out a little bit and support even more dads, and hopefully that just helps in some way the,
Yeah, I have no
the
doubt.
lives of the next generation.
Yeah, I have no doubt that it will. So congratulations, happy birthday, my friend.
Yes, being dads, 52, almost 52 weeks old, almost 1 year. So, all right, man, appreciate you. Appreciate all,
Yeah,
all that you do in this world and to support this effort.
same to you, my friend. All right, we'll talk to you later.
Thanks for this.